Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment, not out of bitterness, not out of rage, not even out of despair, but out of divine revelation. A woman must silently gather her strength, lift her head, and walk away. Too many women are dying in relationships that were only meant to teach them how to live. You weren't created to be someone's emotional punching bag. You weren't designed to carry dead weight just because you're loyal. Loyalty is a gift, but it was never meant to become your prison. There is a difference between a man who is growing and a man who is draining. A difference between someone struggling to love you and someone refusing to. Growth is not perfect, but love that starves you is not love at all. You cannot pour oil into a cracked vessel and expect it to hold. And woman of God, you cannot keep pouring into a man who refuses to heal, refuses to lead, and refuses to honor your worth. When love turns into a labor that only you are carrying, you're not in a relationship, you're in rescue mode. You were not called to fix a man. You were called to fulfill a purpose. A relationship begins to pull you away from your destiny, your identity, your peace. Then hear me. It's time to walk away. Not as a sign of failure, but as a declaration of faith. Your heart is too precious to keep laying it down on altars where it gets burned. Your love is too sacred to be squandered on someone who only receives but never pours back. If the relationship is costing you your sanity, if it's robbing you of your joy, if it's draining your strength, and if it's turning your worship into weeping, it's time. You're not walking away empty-handed. You're walking away with dignity, with clarity, and with the courage to be whole again. You don't walk away because you hate them. You walk away because you finally love yourself enough. Some of you are staying because you're afraid of starting over. But I declare over your life, God will never let you walk away from something without leading you into something better. You're not leaving to be alone. You're leaving to make room for healing, for joy, for purpose. Love is not meant to be a solo act. It was never designed to be a performance where one person gives, bends, sacrifices, and labors while the other simply receives, expects, and consumes. Love becomes one-sided. It stops being love and starts being bondage. A woman was not created to carry the weight of two hearts, two minds, two responsibilities, and still be told she's not enough. One-sided love is a silent killer. It doesn't always announce itself with yelling or violence. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, in unanswered messages, in repeated dismissals, in the emotional starvation that comes from always giving but never being poured into. It shows up in the way you shrink to make him feel big, in the way you compromise your values just to keep his attention, in the way you silence your needs so you won't be called too much. But let me tell you, sis, you are not too much. You are simply too powerful for someone who wants to do the bare minimum. You're not dramatic for wanting to be loved in return. You're not needy because you desire consistency. You're not asking for too much when you're asking for honesty, integrity, or respect. You're just asking the wrong person. When love is right, it works both ways. It's mutual. It's shared. There is a rhythm, a flow, a give and take. Not one person doing the loving and the other doing the taking. Not one giving grace and the other giving excuses. True love is not a battlefield. It's a partnership. It's not always perfect, but it's always present. Shows up, it stands up, it speaks up. When love is one-sided, it turns the woman into a performer, an emotional nurse, a life coach, and sometimes even a mother to a grown man who refuses to mature. You end up giving all of yourself just to hold on to half of him. You tolerate pain and call it patience. You endure neglect and call it loyalty. You carry the weight of dysfunction and wear it like a badge of honor. You were not created to beg for what God said you already deserve. You are not meant to convince someone to love you while they watch you break. You are not supposed to lay down your worth on an altar of insecurity and call it sacrifice. Love, in its purest form, edifies. It builds up, does not diminish, it does not drain, and it does not destroy. When you are the only one investing in the relationship, it's no longer a union, it's an illusion. Love requires work, yes, but it's supposed to be shared work, mutual effort, mutual investment. mutual sacrifice. If you're the only one losing sleep, the only one praying, the only one apologizing, the only one healing, then it's time to stop calling that love. That's labor without reward. That's loyalty without reciprocity. Love should never feel like punishment. It should never feel like silence after vulnerability. It should never feel like confusion after honesty. You were not made to chase after someone who keeps walking away. A woman should not have to become smaller just to make a man stay. If he truly saw your worth, he would rise to meet you, not ask you to lower yourself for him. Let's be honest, one-sided love is exhausting. It robs you of your joy. It depletes your energy. It confuses your spirit. You start to question your own value because someone keeps showing you inconsistency and calling it effort. You start to internalize their lack of commitment as your inadequacy. And that is a lie from the pit of insecurity. Love isn't supposed to break you. Yes, stretches us. Love teaches us. Love humbles us. But real love should never leave you emotionally bankrupt. Real love doesn't make you question if you're lovable. It affirms you. It reminds you. It nurtures the parts of you that life tried to crush. When you find love that flows in both directions, you'll no longer feel like you're fighting a battle by yourself. You deserve a man who prays with you, just plays with your emotions. You deserve a man who leads with honor, not one who manipulates with charm. You deserve a man who doesn't just speak love, but lives it, not just in public, but behind closed doors. Not just in moments of guilt, in moments of peace. You deserve consistent, intentional, grown-up love. Here's the hard truth. Sometimes you won't get that until you stop settling for less. Until you stop choosing men who only show up when they're lonely. Till you stop pouring out gallons of grace on someone who only gives you drops of effort. Till you stop being available to men who aren't even accountable to God. The longer you stay in one-sided love, the more you begin to think that's all there is. But let me remind you, God never called you to be halfway loved. He never created you to survive on crumbs. You are a daughter of the Most High. Your heart is sacred. Your time is sacred. Your presence is sacred. Any man who cannot honor the weight of that doesn't deserve the privilege of access. One-sided love teaches you how to live without being seen. Teaches you how to smile while silently breaking. But there comes a day, oh yes, there comes a day when the woman wakes up, when the fog clears, the silence becomes too loud and the love too cold. That's the day she realizes, I don't need to prove I'm worthy of love. I just need to stop staying where it isn't being given. And when that day comes, don't wait for an apology. Don't wait for him to change. Don't wait for closure. Sometimes closure is knowing you gave your all to someone who wasn't ready to receive it and still choosing to walk away with your head held high. Because when you walk away from one-sided love, you walk toward wholeness, you walk toward clarity, you walk toward peace, and most of all, you walk toward a version of yourself that no longer begs to be chosen because she finally chose herself. And the moment you believe that, you'll never settle for one-sided love again. You'll wait for the kind of love that reflects the love of God, steadfast, patient, kind, unselfish, and true. So walk away if you must, not in bitterness, not in pride, but in power. Because when you choose yourself, you make room for the kind of love that won't make you do all the work. There is a price too high to pay for any relationship, and that price is your peace. Peace is missing. Everything else becomes compromised. Your joy, your clarity, your strength, your vision, all of it begins to unravel when your spirit is in constant conflict. You were never designed to thrive in confusion. You were never meant to chase purpose while walking on eggshells. You cannot soar in destiny while suffocating in dysfunction. Peace is not optional. It is essential. It is not a luxury for the weak. It is the lifeline of the strong. A woman's peace is sacred because it is directly tied to her ability to discern, decide, and develop. When her peace is under attack, purpose is next in line. The enemy doesn't always come with fire and fury. Sometimes he comes through distractions that wear a smile. He comes through relationships that seem good to your flesh but drain your spirit. He comes subtly, slowly, strategically through connections that make you second-guess your worth and silence your inner voice. You'll start calling chaos normal. You'll start believing that love must hurt. you'll start thinking that confusion is part of the package. But I came to remind you, God is not the author of confusion. And anything or anyone that constantly steals your peace is putting your purpose at risk. Every time you ignore the voice inside telling you, this doesn't feel right, you are pushing your destiny further away. Every time you quiet your spirit to keep someone else comfortable, you are dimming the light God placed within you. Peace isn't passive, it is powerful. Peace is not weakness, it is strength under control. Peace gives you vision, it gives you stability. It allows you to hear from God without interference, positions you to build, to grow, to thrive. That's why the enemy fights it. He knows that as long as you are in turmoil, you'll never have the clarity to move forward. You'll keep going in circles, stuck in cycles, attached to people who distract you from your divine assignment. Some of you are in relationships that look good on the outside, but your spirit is crying on the inside. You smile in pictures, but sob in secret. You defend him in public, but you're dying in private. And you keep telling yourself, if I just pray harder, love stronger, wait longer, maybe it'll change. But peace doesn't come through striving. It comes through surrender. You do not have to stay in what is draining you just to prove you're loyal. Loyalty to dysfunction is not faithfulness, it's bondage. And you cannot complete your God-given purpose while you're busy patching up brokenness that was never yours to fix. You are not the glue that's supposed to hold everything together while your soul falls apart. A woman in purpose cannot afford to be out of alignment. She cannot afford to compromise peace just to keep someone in her life. You were not created to survive in storms that you were never meant to sail. Some of the relationships you're holding on to are not just unhealthy, they are unauthorized. God never ordained them. You picked them out of fear, loneliness, out of pressure, and now you're stuck fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You cannot build purpose in chaos. You cannot hear the voice of God over the noise of dysfunction. You cannot step into destiny when you're constantly stepping around disrespect. A woman who walks in her purpose must protect her peace like it's a treasure, because it is. Peace is the soil where purpose grows. Without peace, you can't think clearly. You can't hear God. You can't rest. You can't strategize. You're always in survival mode, always trying to fix, always apologizing, always walking on emotional landmines. That's not love. That's not leadership. That's spiritual warfare. And if you're not careful, you'll begin to confuse the two. You'll stay in confusion and call it a test. You'll endure emotional exhaustion and call it spiritual warfare. Sometimes the greatest, baddest battle isn't what's coming against you. It's what you're choosing not to walk away from. When peace leaves, don't you dare stay. That's your sign. That's the Holy Spirit whispering, there's more for you than this. Don't ignore the unrest in your spirit just because you're afraid to start over. Don't silence your discernment just to keep from being alone. Some of the greatest purpose moves you will ever make will be the ones that require you to walk away from what once felt comfortable. Peace will cost you something. It will cost you connections that don't align. It will cost you conversations that always spiral into chaos. It will cost you the need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. That price is always worth it because the reward is clarity, power, and divine focus. When you have peace, you can dream again. You can breathe again. You can move without fear and speak without trembling. You can show up fully, not halfway, not fragmented, not drained. Your mind is stable. Your emotions are anchored. Your heart is whole, and that's where purpose lives. The enemy wants you bound by emotional chaos because he knows what a focused woman can do. A woman at peace is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. She's not distracted. She's not desperate. She's not tied to toxicity. She's tuned into heaven. And when she moves with authority. What is it costing me to stay connected to what's stealing my peace? How many sleepless nights have I endured trying to hold on to something that's killing my calling? How many dreams have I delayed? How many prayers have I silenced? How many tears have I cried just to maintain a connection that no longer honors who I am becoming? You cannot afford to lose yourself for someone who doesn't even recognize your value. You cannot sacrifice your sanity to salvage a situation that God has already told you to let go of. Your peace is not optional. It is prophetic. It's the indicator that you are where you're supposed to be. And when it disappears, don't brush it off. Don't spiritualize dysfunction. Don't pretend that toxicity is divine timing, because when peace is gone, purpose doesn't grow. When peace is gone, your power dims. When peace is gone, your discernment dulls. You weren't made for that. You were created to walk in purpose, and purpose requires peace as your compass. You will no longer sacrifice your peace for people who do not value your presence. You will no longer confuse chaos with calling. You will no longer normalize dysfunction in the name of love. There comes a time when the soul cries out, not for more love, not for more attention, not for another apology, but for peace, for stillness, for wholeness. Because deep down, the life you're living is not sustainable. The chaos that's been swirling around you, whether in your mind, your home, your relationships, or your spirit, has become too loud, too heavy, too costly. And it's not that you're weak. No, it's that you finally had enough. Enough confusion, enough compromise, enough walking on emotional landmines just to maintain a connection that's draining the life out of you. Wholeness begins where chaos ends. Chaos doesn't just vanish on its own. You have to end it. You have to draw the line. You have to make the hard decisions that say, I choose me this time. I choose clarity. I choose health. I choose peace. Even if it cost me people I thought I couldn't live without. Some of us have become too comfortable in chaos. We've gotten so used to surviving that we forgot how to live. We've mistaken dysfunction for normalcy. We've adapted to pain like it's a part of the process. And that's not God's will for your life. God didn't create you to settle in storms. He didn't design you to live in a cycle of healing from wounds that someone keeps reopening. He's calling you to wholeness, but wholeness requires the courage to confront what's been breaking you. Chaos can come dressed as love. It can come in the form of a man who says all the right things, but does all the wrong ones. It can come as a relationship that once felt right, but now feels like slow suffocation. It can come through your own internal battles, fear, insecurity, guilt, shame, that keep pulling you into decisions that don't honor your destiny. You cannot become whole in an environment that thrives on breaking you. You cannot rise into purpose while constantly dodging emotional debris. God cannot heal what you keep hiding, and He cannot restore what you keep returning to. The moment you silence the chaos, you make room for wholeness to enter. You make room for your thoughts to clear, your heart to heal, and your spirit to finally rest. Chaos always demands attention. It wants your energy. It wants your focus. It wants to distract you from your calling. It wants to make you reactive instead of intentional. And the longer you entertain it, the more you delay the fullness of what God has for you. Some of you have been praying for breakthrough while holding on to what God told you to let go. You've been asking for peace while inviting chaos back into your bed, your conversations, your decisions. You've been fasting, but still entertaining the phone calls that leave you more confused than calm. You've been crying for healing, still clinging to the same cycle that causes the hurt. God will not compete with the chaos you choose. To be whole, you have to be willing to leave the war zone. You have to turn your back on the drama, the dysfunction, the denial. You have to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't need to fix everything. I don't need to be the savior. I don't need to carry what's not mine. I need my peace more than I need their approval. Wholeness is not perfection. It's not about having it all figured out. Wholeness is the alignment of your soul with truth. It's living in agreement with who God says you are, not who trauma tried to make you. It's walking in confidence, not chaos. It's showing up with integrity, not in pieces. It's being able to sit in silence without feeling lost. It's knowing that your worth isn't tied to how much pain you can tolerate. Some of you have mistaken strength for endurance. You've told yourself that strong women stay, strong women fix it, strong women carry it all. But real strength is knowing when to walk away, when to say no, when to choose stillness over noise, when to protect your spirit from what drains it, when to stop proving your love by tolerating disrespect. You can't heal in the same environment that hurts you. You can't become whole in the same pattern that broke you. You have to interrupt the chaos. You have to sever ties with what no longer aligns with your peace. It might hurt at first. It might feel unfamiliar. But healing often begins with separation, not because you're bitter, but because you're ready. Ready to breathe, ready to rest, ready to feel again, ready to love yourself out loud, ready to hear from God without the interference of confusion, ready to live whole, not just patched up with temporary peace and cosmetic healing. Wholeness begins where chaos ends, but the ending doesn't write itself. You must choose it. You must speak it. You must declare. I am not a container for chaos. I am a vessel for peace. I was created for more than survival. I was made to thrive. And when you choose that, when you finally close the door on the chaos that's been stealing your joy, your clarity, your identity, something beautiful happens. The healing begins. The rebuilding starts. The stillness returns. You start to hear your own thoughts again. You start to dream again. You remember who you were before the storm, and you begin to envision who you're becoming now that the storm is over. It won't be easy. The voices of chaos will try to whisper their way back in. Guilt will knock, loneliness will linger. But every time you feel the pull, remind yourself peace is the proof of God's presence. And where His presence is, there is freedom. Freedom from confusion. Freedom from people pleasing. Freedom from the lies that told you chaos was love. You deserve to be whole. You deserve to know what peace feels like, not just on vacation, not just in church on Sunday, but every day. You deserve to wake up without the weight of emotional warfare. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions. You deserve silence that heals, not silence that manipulates. Let this be the season where chaos ends, where you stop justifying toxic patterns, where you stop shrinking to keep the peace that never existed, where you walk boldly into the life God has always wanted for you. A life not perfect, but whole. A life not without struggle, but full of peace. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not too far gone. You are not stuck. You are standing at the edge of a new beginning, and it starts the moment you choose to end the chaos. And when that happens, when the noise quiets, when the tears dry, when the dust settles, you'll find her. The version of you that's been buried under all the mess. She's still there. She's been waiting, and she's ready to live. There is a burden many women carry God never asked them to lift. Silent pressure to hold everything together, to mend broken hearts, to fix fractured men, to repair shattered relationships, to hold families on their backs, even when their own souls are weary. And somewhere along the journey, they begin to confuse compassion with responsibility. They believe that if they just love hard enough, wait long enough, forgive endlessly, and pray consistently, they can heal what only God can touch. You were never meant to save someone from their demons. You were never meant to be the solution to another person's dysfunction. You are not the savior. You are not the redeemer. You are not the deliverer. That is not your assignment. That is not your calling. That is not your burden to carry. And yet, too many women are breaking under the weight of trying to be what only God can be. They stay in toxic relationships hoping that their love will be enough to change a man who doesn't even see his need for transformation. They sacrifice their peace trying to soothe the wounds of someone who doesn't even want to be healed. Keep extending grace to someone who sees it not as a gift, but as a guarantee. It's not wrong to love deeply. It's not wrong to hope for change. It becomes dangerous when you start playing God in someone's life, when you begin to confuse emotional labor with spiritual purpose, when you lose yourself in trying to rescue someone who's not even reaching for your hand. There's a reason why you feel depleted, a reason why you cry yourself to sleep, a reason why you feel like you're pouring from an empty cup, because you were never meant to pour endlessly into someone who keeps leaking. You weren't made to keep trying to hold someone together who refuses to face their own brokenness. But you cannot heal them. Only God can reach into the places no one else can go. Only God can bring life to dry bones. Only God can turn a heart of stone into flesh. Only God can rebuild what's been wrecked by years of trauma, choices, and pain. Some of you are delaying your own healing trying to heal somebody else. You're so focused on fixing them that you don't even realize you're falling apart in the process. You've given so much of yourself to someone who's not even showing signs of change, and now you're angry, exhausted, bitter, and spiritually bankrupt. That is not God's plan for your life. There's something heavy about watching someone you love struggle. It hurts to see potential locked inside a person who won't pursue it. It aches to believe in someone who doesn't believe in themselves. But you cannot keep making excuses for a man who refuses to grow. You cannot continue putting band-aids on bullet wounds. And you cannot keep lowering your standards in the name of loyalty. God is not asking you to die in a relationship He never called you to stay in. God is not asking you to endure abuse and call it ministry. God is not asking you to stay silent in the face of emotional neglect just to keep the peace. That is not healing. That is bondage. Woman of God, you are powerful, but even your power has a boundary. And that boundary is where God begins to do what you cannot. The moment you release that man to God is the moment you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. Moment you say, Lord, I give him to you, is the moment peace starts returning to your soul. He is the God who opens blind eyes, not you. He is the God who convicts hearts, not you. He is the God who restores and revives, not you. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is step back and let God step in. Sometimes the most loving act is letting go. Sometimes the most powerful prayer is, Lord, I've tried everything I know to do. I give them to you. Because while you've been trying to heal them, there's a part of you that's been bleeding too. And God sees that. He sees your silent suffering. He sees the tears you've cried in the bathroom so nobody would hear. He sees the weight you've been carrying, the guilt you've been feeling, the voice in your head that says, maybe if I did more, maybe if I was more, maybe then he'd change. No. No more of that. You've done enough. You've prayed enough. You've fought enough. Now it's time for you to recover. You are not responsible for someone else's healing journey. You are responsible for protecting your own peace, your own heart, your own soul. You don't need to prove your worth through suffering. You don't need to play savior to be valuable. You don't need to lose yourself to show love. Real love doesn't ask you to break so someone else can feel whole. And while he works on him, let him work on you too. Let him heal the part of you that thought you were only lovable when you were needed. Let him heal the part that kept choosing fixer-uppers because you didn't believe you deserved someone whole. Let him remind you that your worth is not in your ability to hold everyone else together, but in your willingness to let God hold you. You don't need to keep bleeding to prove your love. You don't need to keep sacrificing your soul just to keep someone in your life. Healing doesn't flow from your hands, it flows from heaven. And the moment you stop playing healer is the moment you become the healed. There comes a sacred moment in a woman's life when the silence in her soul grows louder than the noise in her surroundings. It's not the sound of anger, bitterness, or revenge. It's the sound of awakening. It's the sound of clarity breaking through confusion, of dignity rising above desperation. Truth confronting the lies she's been told and the ones she's told herself. It's the sound of self-worth speaking up, declaring with unshakable resolve, I deserve more than this. That's the moment she walks away. And hear me clearly, walking away is not weakness. Walking away is worship. It is a declaration that you finally recognize the value of your heart, your time, your peace, and your purpose. Walking away is not about being dramatic. It's not about proving a point. It's not about revenge or ego. It's about honor, honoring the temple that is your body, honoring the calling on your life, honoring the voice of God within you that's been whispering, this isn't it. Some women stay because they think staying makes them strong. Let me tell you something, there is strength in staying, yes, but there is greater strength in knowing when to go. There is courage in confronting dysfunction, but there is wisdom in walking away from it. A woman who walks away is not running from the relationship. She's running toward her healing, toward her peace, toward her future. There are too many women who are physically present, but emotionally buried in relationships that have long since expired. They stay not because love lives there, but because fear does. Fear of loneliness, fear of starting over, fear of what people will say. But what you need to understand is this fear will keep you hostage, but self-worth will lead you out. When a woman knows her worth, she no longer stays where she's tolerated instead of celebrated. She no longer accepts inconsistency as commitment. She no longer allows herself to be loved in pieces when God created her to be whole. You weren't born to be a placeholder, a project, or a peacekeeper in someone else's chaos. You were born to walk in power. And sometimes power looks like packing up your emotions, wiping your tears, lifting your head, and saying no more. Let them call you difficult. Let them say you changed. Wonder what happened to the woman who used to bend and break just to keep the peace. What happened is, she woke up. She realized that her worth is not tied to someone else's willingness to love her right. She realized that staying in a relationship out of guilt, obligation, or fear is not noble, it's damaging. Some of you have been trained to believe that leaving is failure. What if I told you that walking away is the greatest form of success? Because it means you've succeeded in loving yourself enough to leave what no longer aligns with your growth. It means you've succeeded in breaking a generational cycle that taught you to stay silent, stay small, stay stuck. It means you've succeeded in choosing healing over history. You can't be whole in a place that constantly breaks you. You can't become who you're called to be while chained to someone who's content with keeping you in survival mode. You can't hear God clearly while constantly silencing yourself for someone else's comfort. Walking away is a spiritual act. It's a return to your true identity. It's you saying, I was made for more than this heartbreak, this confusion, this one-sided love. It's you reclaiming the narrative and handing it back to God and saying, I trust you to write the rest. I don't need to force something that no longer fits. I don't need to beg for what should be freely given. Need to earn love. I am already loved. The truth is, walking away will cost you something. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you familiarity. It may even cost you relationships you once thought were forever. But the cost of staying in the wrong place is far greater. It costs you your peace, your confidence, your self-respect. And that's too high a price to pay for company that doesn't see your worth. Woman of God, hear me. You were never created to live beneath your value. You were never meant to constantly prove your worth to someone who refuses to see it. You were never meant to lose sleep over someone who sleeps soundly after wounding your spirit. Your tears are precious. Your silence is powerful. Your departure is a message that says, I love me too much to stay in what's killing me. You're not walking away empty. You're walking away with clarity, with freedom, and with dignity. Walking away doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It just means that the love was not reciprocal. You gave and gave. Now it's time to give back to yourself, to pour that love into your own heart, to rebuild what was broken, to restore what was stolen, to remember who you are before the relationship tried to redefine you. Don't wait for them to understand your decision. Some people won't understand your growth because they're committed to their comfort. Don't wait for permission to leave. Don't wait for closure. Sometimes the only closure you'll get is knowing that you finally chose yourself. God honors your decision to walk away from what no longer honors him. He will not leave you in your loneliness. He will not abandon you in your rebuilding. In fact, it's in those very moments after you leave, after you cry, after you begin again, that he begins to restore everything you thought you lost. You'll begin to laugh again. You'll begin to breathe again. You'll begin to see clearly again. Because walking away isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where you're not bending to be chosen, but standing because you already are. A chapter where you are not just surviving, but thriving. A chapter where you are no longer shrinking, but soaring. I am worthy. I am valuable. I am not here to fix what refuses to grow. I am not here to be anyone's option. I am not made to live in confusion. I am free. And when a woman realizes that, when she walks away with bitterness, but with boundaries, everything in her life begins to shift. Heaven stands up, peace returns, destiny opens. She steps into the fullness of who she was always meant to be.